Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my dream world. First of all, I am so sorry. It has been a hot minute, but guess what? Your girl is back in school and she got a job. So, needless to say, I have been very busy. But all that aside, I am back with another episode of Nostalgia Trip, which is where I rewatch shows and movies that I liked as a kid and then see if my opinion has changed or if I have a new perspective than I did as a child. I've done this for the first four seasons of My Little Pony and the first three seasons of Ninjago, so please check those out if you haven't already. I've changed the format a little bit on how I've done these videos as of now, so this will be a two-part episode, my overall thoughts of the season as a whole, and then my ranking of each of the episodes. The format of this video is going to be podcast style, so clips from the show may be inserted for effect, but this is a recap and a review, not a reaction. There will be spoilers for season 4 of Ninjago and for future seasons as well, so if you have not seen all of the series or are watching it for the first time, this video is probably not for you. With that out of the way, I'm gonna hop right into the video. This season is a fan favorite, and by many Ninjago fans, it's considered part of the golden era, which is seasons 4 through 6 of Ninjago. I know that there's also the Oni trilogy and now Dragons Rising, but for a long time and to this day, this is considered a very good season. However, there are a lot of people that find it overhyped too. I am not one of those people. The hyperfixation I had on this season when it first came out was insane. I watched it on repeat constantly and thus have ended up noticing and catching the smallest and dumbest details, whether they're relevant or not, throughout the entire season. This was my number one season for the longest time. Genuinely, I don't remember, but at some point I switched to Possession. But this has always been a top 5 S tier rated season for me. And I'll get into why. I'll cover the overall arc and the plot points this season has, the individual character arcs, overall thoughts, and then of course my highlights, which I do at the end of every video. So let's get into the arcs. We start with our season premiere. It's very strong, probably one of our strongest yet, maybe on par or so with the rebooted premiere, at least in my opinion. I like that we explore how the remaining ninja are being affected by losing Zane in the previous finale, and that they're each handling things differently. Much better done than a certain future season, if you've seen all of this show. I will say it does get a little slow towards the middle, but once we find out that Zane may in fact be alive and that we're being invited to Master Chen's Tournament of Elements, things start amping up pretty quickly. I also like that it was immediately established that Garmadon knows what's up, and we learn more about his past and connection to Chen throughout the entire season. Of course, the main goal of the first half of this season is to find Zane, and to do this, they have to stay in the tournament. However, this proves to be not as easy as they thought. The ninja are a team, and because of this, a target is almost immediately put on their backs, and it becomes clear that Chen does in fact want them to be eliminated so that he can get their powers, which they discover while they're searching for Zane underground. Chen ends up putting Cole and Jay against each other. This is a long time coming. These two are still feuding due to the whole love triangle disaster mess, hot blob of garbage of the previous season. Yes, I am a love triangle hater. If you didn't see my season 3 video, then now you know. But during the fight, they end up coming to a conclusion that they need to focus on the real enemy, which is Chen, and that their friendship matters most in the end. Of course, I have no love for everything that happened in season 3 with these two, but the end of their feud is really, really fun to watch and sets up the amazing, bickering but loving, and very much brotherly relationship for the rest of the series between these two. Cole ends up being the one to take the fall, and at this point, we get a split POV that lasts about 4 episodes. I find that in Ninjago, one of the storylines tends to work much better than when the teams are split apart. This is very apparent for me in seasons like Hunted, Seabound, and Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 1. However, for this season, I'm happy to say that this isn't the case. I love seeing what's going on in the tournament with Lloyd, Kai, Jay, and Garmadon, while Cole works out a plan to escape with Zane, and eventually the rest of the Elemental Masters too. Nia's kind of tertiary plot is a little bit less engaging, and no, it's not just because I was beefing with her character at this point in the show, but it's still important, and I don't think it drags down the flow of the narrative either. Once she gets into her groove as the spy, she becomes a much more helpful and engaging part of the story, and my beef with her, for now, thus ends. Her actions also set up the transition to the end of the tournament and the eventual union of the Elemental Masters to fight back against Chen. At this point, we're heading towards the end of the season, but there is one very important part of the season that I haven't touched on yet, and that is the lore. We've been very familiar with the Serpentine since the beginning of the first season, but we haven't heard much about the Anachondri, especially since Pythor was the only remaining one. Turns out, Chen was the one who caused the Serpentine War. He trained Garmadon, and ended up convincing him to forge Wu's letter to Misako, which won her heart, and eventually causes Wu to flip. Oh my god, not another love triangle. Luckily, it only lasts less than an episode, I believe. But that aside, the Anachondri generals were banished to what's called the Curse Realm by Garmadon, and Chen was exiled to his island, where he started his cult and built up an underground empire. Pretty neat stuff, and gives us some depth to Garmadon and the Serpentine. But here's the big issue I have with this. What's up with the timeline? I think aging and passing time in Ninjago is really weird and inconsistent in general, because Garmadon and Wu's age up is bizarre. They're confirmed to be over 1,000 years old, and they go from looking like young men to old men really, really quick. Like, we're talking in the span of 40 years, which, I guess is normal in real time, but if they are over 1,000 years old, it's very strange. Especially if you've seen the pilots and its mini episodes where Garmadon first gets banished to the underworld. If you think about it too much, your brain might explode. Plus, we also see Kai and Nia's parents in the flashbacks, who definitely haven't had their kids yet, as well as Cole's grandfather. The Serpentine are implied to be shut away for centuries, but apparently it's only been less than 40 years. Yeah, like I said, brain explosion might happen if you think about it too hard, especially considering what we learned about them in the previous seasons. But basically, Chen's obsession with conflict is clear. That's his main thing as a villain. He loves pitting people against each other and puppeting people, which, it's kind of crazy. Like, I know some people hate Chen and some people like Chen, but I'll get into that in a minute. On the other hand, the world building through the other elemental masters is awesome. So I don't have any complaints there. I loved this because it gave so much more room for creativity. I know some people are like, oh, these elements are dumb, like, blah, 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 like, especially in the new Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 2. But I honestly love it because it gave more room for exploration of what type of powers people can have, and like I said, I just love them. So with all of this in consideration, we get to the finale. I'm gonna be honest, and this might be a hot take, it's a little underwhelming compared to what I remembered. The last 7 minutes of it are fantastic and very emotional. Seriously, Lloyd's flashback scene hits, and I love Pythor's role throughout the last few episodes, but the action scenes itself, not my favorite. I mean, yeah. However, I do think that it's a pretty good transition into the next season because, spoiler alert, I'm gonna give you a few seconds. The next main villain doesn't come out of nowhere. And as a result, we get some pretty relevant dynamics and plot lines that occur in what I believe to be an amazing season. So those are my thoughts on the main gist of the story arcs and plots of the season. As for my overall opinion, the transition between the tournament and the finale is a little sluggish. And this is kind of a common theme in Ninjago, where Act 2 of the season takes a dip a little bit in quality, and then the pacing gets a little rickety, but I don't think it was too much of a dip. Upon rewatch, I do understand why some of the people who aren't fans of this season or do have critiques about this tend to say that they like the first half but not the second. I definitely agree that the first half of the season, the tournament, is the strongest part. So I definitely see where people are coming with that opinion, and to be frank, I do agree. I don't think it ruins the season, but I definitely think that the first half and then parts of the middle that are transitioning into the finale is the strongest part. So now that we've covered the main story arcs, I want to get into the individual arcs, that is, our characters. I think I've made it pretty clear. I love the Elemental Masters. I think they were great for world building. I think it was so fun to see different types of powers that people can have in this universe as a creative mind who loves writing and used to love fan fiction. Used to, keyword, don't come at me. But I loved this because it gave such an opportunity for imagination and creativity. I loved it. And if you haven't seen my last video, I definitely recommend checking it out because it's unhinged and I love the Elemental Masters. But my favorites have to be Mr. Pale and Karloff. Neuro Loki was less likable than I remember. For some reason, I found myself being annoyed with him because he was a flip-flopper. But I still love all of them because they each have their own distinct personality. Even the ones like Tox and Ash, they don't talk, but if you watch them in the background, if you're crazy like me and rewatch this season a million times, they each have their own distinct personality, their own reactions that are really small. It's really, really cool. That's one of my favorite parts of this season, the little things. They made those characters instead of just empty husks that are meant to take up space. Then we have Pythor. I love that he stays to his character due to the circumstances. From what we know, Pythor is evil. He is very much a villain. However, in this season, his identity is disrespected. He sees these phony people that want to become Anachondri, and he's disgusted by it. He doesn't like it. So even though he doesn't align with the ninja, and he does not continue to align with the ninja either, and I think that stays true to who he is, he says, you know what, I'm gonna help you because my ancestors are being seriously disrespected right now. And he was also hilarious, might I add. I know the second half of the season is a little sluggish compared to the first half, but Pythor was definitely consistently hilarious throughout the entire thing, at least in my opinion. And I already touched a little bit on Karloff, but again, he's definitely one of my favorite Elemental Masters of this season. I loved his dynamic with Cole. I love how he redeems himself. He kind of sees that he was doing a little bit too much at the beginning, and then was like, nope, let me just like be cool and become a better version of myself. I loved that. I mean, obviously it's not the most prominent arc in the season, but you definitely see how he develops over the course of this season. Also, what is with Kai having beef with so many people in this season? It's hilarious. Okay, sorry. I'll get to that later. But yeah, that's Karloff. I love him. He's super cool, really fun side character. We also have Skylar. She's cool. I like her in this season. I do wish she was a little bit more utilized after the setup we were given here, because after this we barely see anything of her. I like her okay. I know that some people either love her or hate her and have like mixed feelings about her relationship with Kai. Personally, in this season, I thought it was very well done. As for future seasons, not so much. But I like her. I think she was a very good example of a character that is manipulated and is in a really tough situation and has to choose whether she's going to break out of it or not, and slowly seems to realize that the side she was originally aligned with doesn't care about her very much. I mean, Chen literally almost just gives her right up to Garmadon. And obviously Garmadon was probably bluffing a little bit, but Chen was literally just like, lol, I don't care, like, it's whatever. So I feel like if something actually happened to Skylar during that, Chen would have been like, oh, whatever, I'm still gonna let that giant snake eat you, haha. Like, she begins to see, like, he did absolutely nothing to defend me during that scene, and that's when she is like, ugh, no, I'm betraying you, haha.
You betray me? Runs in the family.
We also have Klaus. I don't know how I feel about him. He has a really weird dynamic with Chen, where he co-signs pretty much everything and is supposed to be, like, the henchman with reason, but at times Chen actually outsmarts him, and he's just like, oh, you're smart, master. It's like, Klaus, honey, you're the one with magic. You could easily overthrow Chen and just become the head general of everything, because Chen, yes, he's manipulative and has everyone under his thumb, but Klaus is the one with the power. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know. He really confuses me as a character. It's not that I don't like him. I just think that it's weird. His beef with Garmadon is funny. I enjoyed that. But his dynamic with Chen kind of throws me off. Now, speaking of Chen, he's a very hit or miss villain, I've found. Like, people tend to find him extremely annoying, and rightfully so. He is annoying. He is unhinged on so many levels. Personally, I think he's the right combination of ruthless and unhinged. But I definitely see why some people are like, oh my gosh, shut up and actually do something. Because he is kind of weak. I mean, it's implied that he trained Garmadon, but like, without the Anacondrae powers and without his staff, what can he do? Yes, he's a manipulator, but he's weak. So, come on. Like I said, Klaus could totally overthrow him. So it's just kind of like, I can see why people are annoyed by him because he seems to just be a yapper. Obviously, with his staff and with the Anacondrae power up, he can do more. But it's just kind of like, I don't know. I can see why people find him really annoying. Personally, I just think he's funny. Like he's just the right amount of unhinged for me. But and I also like that that doesn't keep him from being a manipulator. So yeah, I don't know if I'd say he's one of my favorites, but I think he's a solid villain. And but I do totally understand why people don't like him. So now I'm gonna get into the ninja. We have a new Zane. Personally, for me, here on out, he's just not the same as he was in seasons 1 through 3. And that makes me so, so, so sad because Zane seasons 1 through 3 is my favorite, top tier, GOAT. But even though he's not really going to be my favorite anymore after this, and oh, that hurts so much to say, but it's the truth. He was solid this season. Some people are a little iffy about the whole him putting Pixel in his head kind of thing, but I really loved his dynamic with Cole, his transition back to the team, as well as his kind of fear identity crisis mini arc. I thought that it worked really well given the circumstances, and he was solid in this season. I know some people are like, oh, season 1 Zane was the only good Zane, or like season 3 Zane is the only good Zane, but it's just like, he was solid this season. Let's give him that. He hasn't quite gone down the writer's dump yet. Then we have Nia. She's better this season than she was in the first 3 seasons for sure. Obviously, I'm still not a huge fan of her character at this point. I love Nia, by the way, just not in these first couple seasons. Like, the first thing she says is she's still stuck on the whole Cole and Jay thing. And it's like, oh my gosh. You're ranting about this to Sensei Wu. Seriously? But about midway through the season, she goes to the island and she plays her part. And she has a really funny moment with Chen where she totally knocks him out and then just like jukes Klaus. It's really funny. Like that episode's kind of a mess, and I'll get into that later. But I loved her about midway through this season. She was great. So definitely an improvement. I still have like kind of qualms about her until later in the series, but she was definitely better this season than she was in season 3. So I was happy to see that because I don't want to have beef with Nia. I want to like hype her up, but I can't do that when her character is a mess, and she was a mess in season 3. But hopefully it is uphill from here on out for her. Jay, I actually really liked Jay in this season. At the beginning, he was annoying because he is also stuck on the whole love triangle thing, but he redeems himself, and when he's not stuck on the whole love triangle thing, he's great. He has some great quips and is, isn't taking things for granted. Like, he enjoys his time on the island. He tries to embrace it. I found him quite enjoyable, especially after Versus. Like, he has his fight with Cole, and then he's really, really funny in Ninja Roll, and is just really great throughout the rest of the season with his whole positive thinking. I know some people find him annoying, but I really liked him this season. I thought he was solid. Lloyd, I honestly found him a little bit meh. Like, he was just kind of there trying to keep the group together, so he was great in the premiere. But then after that, it's like, oh, Lloyd's untouchable and is the most powerful one in this tournament, and thus he doesn't really have much to do. He's just kind of bland. I do really like his leadership skills being showcased here, though. I know some people are like, Lloyd, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a Lloyd hater, so don't bring that into my comment section because I don't care. But yeah, I did find him a little bit bland this season, obviously, until the finale. The finale was, oh, that hit me. That hit me because Lloyd's relationship with Garmadon is so complex and interesting to watch throughout. But yeah, he was okay. Like, he wasn't bad at all, but he was okay. I think the OG4 ninja stood out to me more this season, especially Jay, Cole, and Kai. And that being said, I'm going to get into Cole. I think this is probably his best season yet. He has a great arc, and he also shows some very natural leadership skills once he gets eliminated and is in the factory with Karloff and the other eliminated elemental masters. He has a great dynamic with Zane, and he's just really fun to watch. He's very consistent throughout the entire season. He stays grounded, he's selfless, and he admits that he screwed up with the whole love triangle thing, so I really respect him for that. And this was when he started becoming my favorite ninja. I always loved Cole, but again, season 1 through 3 Zane was my GOAT. Here's where I kind of started shifting towards Cole, and there's a reason for that. I thought he was excellent this season. Then we have Kai. Great highlight of this season, especially the way he totally ends up playing Chen in the end. He has his ups and downs throughout this season. He takes some beatings and comes back stronger. And I really, really respect his character for that. He's coming to terms with who he is on the ninja team. We also see his internal struggle that when he grabs the staff and it kind of begins corrupting him because, he still is trying to figure out his place on the team, and that is okay. But it's also like, ooh, he still has a little bit to work on. And I like that, though. I like that. And he overcomes it. Because when he breaks out of it, he's like, oh my gosh, what am I saying? This is crazy. And, I just really, really thought he was enjoyable this season. I know there's some debate and like, Kai didn't get enough focus or like, but even though I consider this a team season, he was, I think, the most prominent OG ninja in this season, at least. Of course, the finale circles back around to Lloyd and Garmadon, but I thought Kai was excellent this season. Then we have Garmadon. You can't go into the season without mentioning Garmadon. He was an absolute G. I loved him, and his sacrifice really does hit. I think his wisdom was wonderful. I know there's kind of a debate who was better, Garmadon or Wu, and somebody said Wu is the better sensei, but Garmadon was the better, like, guidance person, like, trainer versus guidance person. Garmadon's wisdom is amazing. And I loved his interactions with Lloyd. I love how he was kind of like, y'all need to get your heads in the game, but still in like a protective uncle fatherly way, not like I'm gonna whip y'all. Like he was willing to risk himself going back to that island to protect the ninja. And I really respect him for that. He was awesome throughout this season. Of course, there's that whole mess at the end with the finale, but yeah, he really, the sacrifice hits so bad. I love him. He was awesome. So now with me covering all the major characters, let me know if I forgot somebody or if you want me to elaborate. But I'm going to get into my highlights. My favorite episodes were Versus and Ninja Roll. I just found them the most consistent and the most entertaining. If I had to pick my favorite, I would probably pick Ninja Roll. That might be a little unpopular, but that was one episode where I was hooked the entire time. Versus is probably objectively the best, though, because it has my favorite fight in the entire freaking first part of the season. Like, I'm gonna make a whole video on that, by the way. But it also has the whole Cole and Jay thing, the first parts of the real tournament, like not just the first all-around round and stuff. But yeah, those are definitely my top two. My least favorite is probably Spy for a Spy. I just found it a little bit messy in a lot of places. It isn't a bad episode at all, but it was just kind of like weird and all over the place. It wasn't a great transition, and because of that, I just kind of put it lower than the rest of the episodes this season, but it's still solid for sure. But then we have Pleasant Surprises, which are usually episodes that I used to hate and then grew to like, or that I forgot about and was like, oh wait, that was actually a good episode. I don't really have any for this season because I love this season, so I remember pretty much everything about it. But if I had to put one in this category, I would say it'd be the Forgotten Element, because like we said, everything in the first half of this season really, really hits, but the Forgotten Element is actually a pretty good transition into the next part of the season and kind of wraps up the first half of it. We wrap up Act 2 here, and because of that, I really enjoyed it. We also get some really funny moments and really killer lines from Kai, and from Skylar, and it just like a lot of cool moments happen here that I definitely wasn't really thinking about when I rewatched it. So if I had to put something in that category, it would be The Forgotten Element. So after each season, I have a tradition. I rank the main 6 ninja, or the main 5 now, plus Nia, because she eventually joins the team. So I'll share my ranking for this season, and then we'll go over the average ranking, which I put together after every season, and it changes each time. So the ranking for this season, I'll start at 6. Nia, I'm sorry, girl. Yes, you're on a losing streak. Unfortunately, it's not your fault. It's the writing. But Nia is much better this season than she was last season. But I still she doesn't have the focus that the other 5 do, and just wasn't prominent enough for me to justify putting her above anyone, even though she was better this season, and I don't have beef with her character right now. But yeah, sorry, Nia, 6th place. 5th place, I was a little torn between Zane and Lloyd, but I'm gonna give Lloyd 5th. And the reason I'm giving Lloyd 5th is because I don't know, I just found Zane a little bit more interesting in terms of dynamic and arc. Lloyd obviously has the finale. If we were just going by that, maybe he'd be even higher. But I feel like Zane's personal arc and, his dynamics with Cole, and then him reuniting with the rest of the team, and, having some funny moments himself. Like, I think Zane just had a little bit more going for him than Lloyd did. So Zane has been dethroned. He is no longer number 1. He's been on a winning streak until literally now. And so, no hate to him. Then in 3rd place, I have Jay. I think Jay was great this season, but he didn't have as much personal focus, and he was kind of annoying towards the beginning. So that's why he's in 3rd. Cole and Kai, okay, I would basically have them tied, but I just think Kai had like a few more star quality moments in this season. Cole was probably the most consistent throughout the season, and he got his first like focus arc, which was awesome, by the way, but I think Kai just had a few more standout moments, and because of that, Kai gets 1st place, Cole gets 2nd place for this season. Now we get to the average ranking. So Zane is still on top. Him winning 1st place in the first 3 seasons kind of gives him a lot of cushion right now. But Kai is closing the gap in 2nd place. And then I have Cole in 3rd place, who is a little bit more inconsistent, but had some very strong seasons in 1 and 4. Kai just, has been more consistently entertaining throughout the first 4 seasons. Then Lloyd is in 4th place, also kind of inconsistent, but had some good moments in season 2 and 3. And then Jay is in 5th, and Nia is in 6th. And don't worry, guys, Nia, I love her, like I said, so her ranking will hopefully improve. And yeah, basically, the gap has massively closed between Zane and Kai. Lloyd has officially bumped below Cole. Poor Nia is still stuck at the bottom, but her writing massively improves after this, so I don't think she'll be stuck here for too much longer. My season ranking so far, I think season 4 is my favorite so far, but season 4 and season 1 are very, very close. And season 3, as of now, is my least favorite, but I don't hate it. If you watch my opinion video on that, I don't hate that season. I actually have a little bit of a soft spot for it, but in terms of writing, I just find it much, much messier. Season 2 has its inconsistencies, but I really like the second half, and even the filler now that I look back on it has its good moments, except for a couple few duds. But yeah, I would say 4, 1, 2, and then 3. So yeah, season 4 is still a top season for me. I'll always have a special place in my heart for it, even if it's not my number 1 anymore. I have 2 more videos lined up after this regarding season 4, and then another series planned to start soon, so let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. I also can make a poll if that's easier. Thank you for the support on my past few videos and my channel as of late. Like I said, I'm hopping into a new job. I'm starting back up school. I'm booked. But I want to keep rolling out content because this is really fun and I love talking about these shows. Let me know what y'all think. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I apologize if my voice sounds like crud right now because my allergies are super bad. But I hope you enjoyed the video regardless, and I will see you next time. Bye!